Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so happy to introduce you to our newest ambassador of kindness, number 6,489, Rosemary. How do you do, Rosemary?
Hi, I'm great.
Well, one day you're going to say fantastic, and you're going to see the difference.
I'm fantastic.
There you go. You see, what you are, what you think, and what you say. So I'm very happy to know you, and thank you for getting in touch with me. You have lived on the island for 26 years. A few changes have occurred. You came here as a student of, what was it?
Nature conservation.
Nature conservation. So real quickly, have we conserved since then in 26 years, or are we going backwards? That's a stumper for you.
Well, there is a lot more awareness about nature conservation, but there is also a lot more destruction of our environment and issues with different species and their conservation status. So, but there are a lot more people doing good work in terms of nature conservation.
There's groups on the island doing it here?
Yes. There is ACES, American Crocodile Education Sanctuary, and they do fabulous work in raising awareness of nature conservation and also rehabilitating wild animals and releasing them.
Well, how many wild animals? I've seen raccoons, and I've seen a crocodile. What other wild animals are there here?
Well, we get jaguars and puma up on the northern end of the island where I used to live. Around our house we would have peccary, which are wild pigs, and deer, and agouti, and gibnut. There are many different species of reptiles and birds. And of course we have the coral reef environment and the mangroves. So it's really fantastic with the species diversity and the different ecosystems we have here on the island.
Well, I just learned I love learning something new every day. I didn't know there were that many wild animals on this island.
Yeah, there are a lot, and there used to be a lot more. We have squirrels.
I love the birds.
Yeah, a lot of birds. Yeah, it's definitely a bird lover's island, and for people who like to snorkel and scuba dive, it's a marine
sanctuary, I think is the word. No.
Yeah, sanctuary.
But I've been living in, as I told you, in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, and the fish are amazing. Mm-hmm. They're like that here because I haven't gone snorkeling yet here, because the reef is so far out there, and you're not just allowed to go out there on your own. Is that the way it is?
No, you need to go out with a licensed tour guide, and Hol Chan Marine Reserve in Sharkray Alley has a huge variety in different species. You can see turtles and moray eels, eagle rays, different stingrays. There used to be a greater diversity in the marine life up north where I used to live. Changes in climate, global climate, and non-sustainable fishing practices have changed things, but there is a lot to see.
Well, I saw two turtles at Turtle Island. That was pretty cool. Yeah. One was a little bit crippled, but he looked like he was having a good day when I met him.
Yes, they get rehabilitated. Their Hol Chan Marine Reserve has rangers that are looking after them there.
Great. And so there's a lot of fishing here. I heard there was a lobster industry.
Yes, lobster and conch are two very important fisheries here on the island. We have Lobster Fest coming up, where if you like lobster, you'll enjoy many different lobster dishes. So commercial fishing is important, but so is the tourism industry in terms of fishing, with sport fishing, which can be fly fishing. It's a fly fisherman's paradise here because you can get the Grand Slam. So if a fisherman comes here to the island, they can get a tarpon, permit, and bonefish. It is possible in one day. It's difficult, but it is possible. So there aren't many places in the world where you can get the Grand Slam in one day, and it's possible here. So it's a fly fisherman's paradise. Reef fishing, it's fantastic. And then deep sea fishing. And there are many tours where people can go out and catch fish, and then the tour guides barbecue it for lunch, or the guests take it home and the resort cook will cook it for him or her.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, no, fishing is a very, very important industry here.
Okay. How do you pronounce the name of the island?
Ambergris Caye.
Ambergris, because
That's how I pronounce it.
Yes, because there's many
That's
different
right.
pronunciations.
Yeah.
I always tease everyone because you're an expat, obviously, and the locals say Ambergris Caye, like a hamburger. They say Ambergris. So I've got about 8 different pronunciations on video so far.
Well, I don't think there is a correct or incorrect way. I think however one pronounces it based on their accent.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's no proper way. Okay. And what does it mean?
Ambergris is, well, it was thought to be whale vomit, but it's actually whale feces. So
That makes more sense than
yeah,
vomit.
and so it's from sperm whales, and it's vomited up, or actually
Excreted.
pooped out, excreted, and it washes up on, on Ambergris Caye. And it's very rare, it's very valuable, and it's used in the perfume industry.
Poop that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Poop in the industry.
Fragrant poop.
Fragrant poop. Now I looked up on how much the island cost when someone first purchased it. Do you know what that price is?
No, I don't know.
$625
Wow.
US. It's an amazing. I'm going to do a little history piece on it on one of my episodes.
Okay.
You know, which is kind of fun because it's. I always say the more you know, the easier your life is.
Right.
You know, if you know how to fly a plane, you can save your ass if the pilot passes out. You know, if you know how to captain a boat, you know, it's just my life is pretty easy because I've done so many different things, and you know, I just really encourage people to be curious and to learn every day. They have Google now, they have Bard, they have all kind of different ways of asking technology, AI now, what's going on. What are you curious about?
I'm curious about holistic medicine, Ayurveda, and the conservation of the planet in all its forms, metaphysical things.
That'll keep you busy.
Right.
There's so much
Yes.
information out there.
Yes, it's like a Pandora's box. So, and the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know.
Well, what's nice about island life is I think people have escaped the rat race. And so a lot of people I find don't watch the news, which is really healthy. The news is very, very dangerous, I think. It's very unhealthy.
Yes, I agree. I'll watch the news every few days just to keep in touch with what's going on in the world. And I choose midday to watch it so that I can think about other things in the afternoon. I'll never watch the news before I go to bed. It's just a way to be up to date in what's going on in the world, but to not get caught up in it and be overwhelmed by all the crazy things.
So in our last minute here, what did you think about the Be Kind signs and how did you hear about that?
Oh, the Be Kind signs. I had been away and I was coming back in a taxi from town to home, and I noticed all these yellow Be Kind signs, and I thought, wow, that is so wonderful to see. And I didn't know who was putting them there, and I thought, well, this is great for the next Dance for Kindness in Belize. I was the group leader for last year's Dance for Kindness. And I thought whoever's doing this can really be supportive in next year's Dance for Kindness in Belize, which really helps spread the awareness for the power of kindness and how we all can make choices that benefits
We are back with Rosemary talking about kindness, which is my favorite subject, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
Tell us about kindness.
Well, I believe kindness is really important. It starts with ourselves, because if we treat ourselves kindly, whether it's in the thoughts we have about ourselves or the way we eat, kindness helps us to become individuals with more self-esteem and self-value. And when someone has more self-value, they're more likely to be happier, confident individuals, and more likely to treat others with compassion and kindness. It's contagious. And so not only does kindness help to create more self-empowered, productive, happier individuals in society, but it helps individuals to make choices that are beneficial to themselves and others, and less likely to make choices that are harmful. For instance, they're less likely to turn towards drugs and alcohol abuse and a life of crime. So when we're kind to ourselves, and it inspires us to be kind to others, and it reflects out on society. So it creates happier individuals, kinder individuals, and a kinder society, therefore country, and it contributes to a happier, kinder world.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Now, did you study psychology or in school? I mean, as well?
No, I didn't, but I do read a lot of psychology. It's something that interests me, and human behavior, and I'm a firm believer in promoting things that you believe in, and I believe in kindness. So rather than fighting against things that you don't like, whether it's animal cruelty, domestic abuse, drugs, and all the organizations that do help us, they're great. But if we focus on being kinder individuals and being kinder towards others, we're less likely to have a lot of the social problems that we have nowadays, whether it's in San Pedro or Belize or the world. People are less likely to engage in acts of harm towards themselves and others if they have more self-respect and self-value, and that all starts with being kind to ourselves.
And that's why it's commitment number one, the hardest and most important of the three commitments, which I truly believe will solve all mankind's problems. We need to get away from greed, and we need to educate humanity. So, I mean, we're just a species that's low on the evolutionary scale, if you ask me. But we're learning, we're growing, and hopefully we won't make too many more mistakes because we're trying to correct all the mistakes. I always say that people, because of all the mistakes going on, are asking the governments and corporations to fix everything. But I think if you take accountability for your actions, then all the problems are solved.
Accountability, yes. It starts on the inside. When you work on the inside, the outer.
Well, I couldn't be happier with our newest ambassador at 6,489. Now, it's a very small number, I think, an insignificant number on the planet. But I was thinking if I interviewed one person, one ambassador a day, it would take over 20 years to interview over 6,400 of them.
Wow.
So that's a big number when you think of it like that. And I'm very happy to have you on board. And together we're going to make the world a kinder place. And we're going to make it a kinder island, which is I'm really happy that the kind signs are working, and we're going to roll them out worldwide. We hope every community would adopt a plan like this, and we're going to form a charity so we can get funding so we can send these out for free.
But the kindness signs make people smile.
Yes.
And smiling stimulates us to secrete those happy hormones, and it has a boomerang effect.
Endorphins, dopamine, and serotonin. And they say every time you smile, you live 5 minutes longer because of the release of stress. And when you laugh like you just did, an hour longer. So laugh often, smile all the time, and be kind.
Right.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you.
Well, I am back with Rosemary because she just told me something that is truly fantastic. She lived 15 miles north from the center of town. I guess they measure everything from the center of town. Off-grid, had cloth diapers, which I remember, because that was my era. 80 a week, boiling them on propane. But she lived off the grid. Tell me more about life off the grid on the island.
Well, I moved there, I first went there in 1996 when I came to Belize to do the sea turtle protection and manatee research projects. And I married the biologist doing that, and he had already lived here for about 20 years. So he's been here now for about 43 years. And his dad bought land up there in the early 1970s, and my ex-husband, my good friend, Greg, lived there. And so I lived there and was very rustic. We had a rainwater tank and a well, and we ate fish from the sea and vegetables from the garden. We didn't have refrigeration until I was pregnant with my third child. I have 3 children. I raised them here on the island. My daughter will be 17 next month, and my sons are 19 and 24. And for the first baby, it was all cloth diapers, a lot of work, a lot of buckets of water, because we didn't have the electricity for commercial washing machines, things like that.
No electricity, or did you have solar? You didn't have solar.
We had 2 solar panels about this big. So it was limited. We had enough light to run the kitchen light at night. And we relied on the sun a lot. So when the sun was shining, there was enough power in the deep cycle 12-volt batteries to run the twin tub washing machine in the middle of the day. So the weather had to be just right, and the sunshine really helped the cloth diapers also hanging on the line. And then with the second child, I used cloth during the day and disposable diapers at night. Disposable diapers are an environmental nightmare. They take forever to decompose.
Oh, you're plastic. You're plastic.
So we lived a very environment-friendly life.
Did you homeschool the children?
No, and the schooling was difficult because when my first son started school, Greg would take him to school by boat. We had a boat for transport. There was no way to get to the house in those days except by boat. It was surrounded by...
That is off-grid, living on an island.
Yeah, most people think of off-grid today as these fancy houses with tons of solar panels. No, it was a very remote place. And we lived in tune with nature, basically.
No television.
Oh, no. We had no television. We had hundreds of books. We read a lot of books. Our children when they were young, they were mostly raised on books, arts and crafts, building things, 3-dimensional play, like blocks and Legos, and
well, I'll bet you raised 3 fantastic human beings, and that's the best thing you can do in life, is to raise a fantastic human being, in my opinion.
I hope so. I became an empty nester in July last year, so it's been very strange for me to not have my children with me on the island after all these years of being a devoted mother, and my life in Belize, this chunk of my life has been revolved around raising my children, and now they've flown the nest, and
now it's time for Rosemary to fly.
Yeah. So I'm going through a transition and figuring things out. That's why I did the Dance for Kindness for Belize last year, because I've been really busy for the last 25, 27 years. I've worked really hard and raised my kids, and so now it's my time. It's my turn to give back to my community, because I have the time now.
And yourself, mostly.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yeah, I have the freedom now to do things that I want to do, simple things, because I can't afford to do big things. But yeah, I just,
Well, you're going to write a blog. You're going to start a blog.
yes, it's Island Rosemary. So I'll start publishing my stories soon. I am getting some help with that because I'm not technically great, but
Well, I may have a publisher for you on the island. So.
oh, that'd be nice. So I do. That's my aim, to share my island stories about living off grid and raising my 3 children here on the island.
Mrs. Robinson there, you know?
Yeah, our family was actually called the Smith Family Robinson, and I was in the early, long time ago.
Well, I think we can learn a lot from those experiences, and it's about sharing your life, and so you can help one other person. Even helping just one person is fantastic.
Yes, and I've had health issues, so I would like to inspire others to overcome their health issues by, you know, being kind to themselves. And yeah, I feel really pulled to write my stories, and so that's what I'm doing.
Very good. Well, I'm happy to have you as an ambassador of kindness, and I'm glad Belize is accepting it very nicely, and let's keep moving forward and spreading kindness.
Right.
Thank you, Rosemary.